All right, good morning, grade 7 and 8. Welcome to your Monday math lesson. I hope that everything went well with the ordering and comparing decimals booklet, and if it didn't, then you need to email me right away with specific questions, because I'm assuming I can move on and start making videos on our next booklet. This week, we're going to be focusing on practicing adding and subtracting decimals. And our first page is a little abstract. It's not how you're going to see this moving forward. Adding and subtracting decimals ultimately is a lot like adding and subtracting anything, but they do want you to stretch your brain and try some fractions. So this lesson will be in two parts. The first part will be at all about the first page, and then the second part will be about general adding and subtracting. So the first question has you coloring in a specific amount of squares in the big square. So if I have a big one and it's all divided up and it gives me the decimal 0 and 25 hundredths, well, it wants you to color in 25 of those. Then you are determining how many other hundredths you are putting in the next square. So it gives you a plus, and it does this. And for the record, I did try and use my stylus from my Nintendo 3DS to draw on the touchscreen, and my touchscreen doesn't like that. So you're stuck with my finger drawings. I'm very sorry. Maybe some days I'll go into the school and use the smartboard there so you can get a little more articulation. But for now, I'm literally finger painting to teach you math. All right, now down here it says 0, and then it leaves this blank. Well, you pick however many you are going to color in. Please don't say 0, 1, because yeah, you could color it in very clever. All of a sudden we have 26 hundredths. I want you to try and be creative. What does it look like if I add them together? If you wanted to use two different colored pencil crayons to show this, that would be a recommendation of mine. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that I've actually added 61 hundredths. Well, here, where it gives me an equal sign, my first step is I'm going to color in 25. And then I'm going to color in, potentially in a different color, 61 more. And down here, it wants me to do the numbers. Well, how many squares did I color in total? And that would amount to 86 hundredths. It's there for those of you who are visual learners who like counting the squares. And when you look at it, out of 100 squares, and again, yeah, pardon me for the terrible drawings, but out of 100 squares, you should have colored in only 86. So that's how you do A and B in question 1. Then in question 2, you have more of the same, where it's getting you to look at the decimals in terms of base 10 blocks. So again, big square equals 1, a line equals 1/10, and a little square equals 1/100th. So then put those together, what do you have? And then they start getting you to stretch your brain in questions 3 and 4 by comparing it all to fractions. Now, they've made it really easy, but they're trying to remind you that decimals and fractions are the same thing shown differently. So where I would have 3/10 plus 5/10, and yes, I'm not saying 0.3 and 0.5 because it starts turning it into fractions. And when I look at this decimal and I go, well, it's a 3 in the tenths place, then I know I have 3/10. Well, in fractions, I have such a thing as a tenth. And therefore, this is 3/10. And it wants me to add 5/10. I can add this very easily because the denominators are already the same. You can always add and subtract a fraction if the denominators are the same. So this is pretty easily set up for us. Then it asks you to put it in fractions first. What amount of tenths is that? I'll help you out with this one. That would be 8/10. Then it wants you to take that 8/10 and put it in a decimal. Well, I know where the tenths place is in my place value, so that's what it looks like in decimal form. Then it does some more with hundredths. Then it also gives you a question for question 4, where you have to convert a few things. For A, I have 27 hundredths, but watch carefully, I only have 6 tenths. It needs for you, when you do the fractions, to have the same denominator to add. So I could say 6 tenths, and this is your only hint for the day. I could also say 60 hundredths. I put a 0 there, it doesn't change how many tenths I have, but it makes it look like it's hundredths now because I have a digit in the hundredths place. All right, so that concludes part 1 of our video, dealing with the more abstract ways to represent decimals and fractions together when adding, as well as using visual help to add. That's all very good. I trust, because I know how well you do with adding and subtracting, that we can go to part 2 right away. And part 2 will deal specifically with, I have the digits, I have the decimals in front of me, I don't want to use pictures or fractions, how do I do it? And so I'm going to stop this video. This will be your part 1, and then I'm going to do another video right after this. Thanks for watching.